All right, guys, let's look at question 3 called fractions of a percent. All right, so before we jump into this problem, I want to say that this is where, or this portion of the lesson is where the warm up makes the connection. Okay, so it's not going to tell us to solve it mentally, but this is a exercise to help you guys learn how to solve it mentally. Okay, so let's jump into number 1. And number 1, we'll be solving it mathematically, and then we'll kind of like get into how we can solve it mentally. Okay, so it says find each percentage of 60. What do you notice about your answers? Now, I'm going to put some annotations on the side. Make sure you guys write this in your book. Is over of, equals percent over 100. All right. So is over of equals percent over 100. Now, even though it's telling us to find each percentage, I don't like the way that's worded. It's saying find each percentage. What it wants us is to do is to find the is, which is basically the portion or the part. So we are finding the is, okay? Because it gives us the percentage. We don't have to find the percentage, okay? So I want you guys at home to partition your paper into 3 equal parts. I'm sorry about that. I hate when it always bounces back and forth, but partition it into 3 equal parts. All right. And I want to set up my portion tables, which you guys could be setting them up at home with me. I want to do them all at one time. I mean, why not? We're just setting them up. So it's going to be 30% over 100. We have 3% over 100. We have 3/10% over 100. And we have 300% over 100. Okay, the whole is 60. All right, so what's missing is the is, okay? So what we want to do still is we want to cross multiply and divide by the number that doesn't have a partner, which is the number in the box. All right, so now we're all set up, okay? So I'm going to kind of solve this mentally, and then I'm going to incorporate, some math in it. So we know that 6 times 3 is 18. Therefore, 60 times 30 will give me 1,800, because 6 times 3 is 18, and that would give me 1,800. So now I want to divide by 100. And what you can do is you can scratch out those zeros just like we did in our previous problem. So it'll give me 18. Okay. So then for the next one, I have 6 times 3. 6 times 3 will give me 180 because it only has 1 0. And then I'm going to divide by 10. I can scratch out that 0, but it still left me with 18 over 10. And if you if you know the dividing by 10 trick, you really don't have to divide, but I do it for my kids who don't know it. So how many times can 10 go into 18? And that's 1 time. I ran out of numbers, but I want to add a decimal and a 0 and drop it. How many times can 10 go into 80? And that's 8 times. So it's going to be 1 8/10. Okay. So then for the next problem, I have 60 times, and we could do 0.30, 0.3. It really doesn't matter. It does matter. So I'm gonna put it like this, okay? So it's gonna be 0.3. We really don't need that 0, and it's going to be 3 times 0 and 18, and the decimal will go right here. So then I'll have 18 divided by 100. Okay. And technically it's 1800s, correct? So it would be 1800s. Okay. So if I would have divided, of course, 100 would have went outside the house. 18 would have been inside the house. 18 cannot go into 100 and so on. But if we would have kept going, it would have gave me 1800s and so on. So needless to say, 60 times 0.03, so our 300, so 60 times 0.300, and then I'm going to multiply, so that's 0, that's 18, all right, and then I'm going to scoot it up, 1, 2, and I'm going to add that together. Let me erase, let's see, I'm going to erase this portion so you guys don't get confused. All right, I'm going to be 18. So then it have 2 digits behind the decimal, so it's going to be 1.80 or 1 in 80 hundredths over 100. You can scratch out the 0, and if you understand decimal place value, you know that decimal is just moving. Okay, so now I'm going to circle my answers. I think I kind of said it to you guys, but what do you notice? What did you notice about the answers? So what I noticed about the answers is that every time we lost a 0 or a power of 10, the decimal place moved. So here's my example. 60 stayed the same, correct, in each problem. But 30 went from, it lost a 0, the decimal kind of was, well, not the decimal, but yes, I'm going to say this, the decimal was moving. So in 30, there was no decimal. Then in the next one, the decimal moved up by 1, which gives me 3. So I'm going to give you guys an example. It was 30, and the decimal moved up by 1. And so did the decimal in our answer. It moved up. The next one, the decimal moved up by 2, and that's what it did. Comparing it to the first answer and to the third answer, the decimal moved by 2. So then the next answer, comparing it to the first one, the decimal moved 3 times. So that's what I noticed about it. Did you guys notice the same thing? Okay, so let's look at number 2. If you didn't notice it, we're going to get through this together, I promise. So let's look at number 2. It says 20% of 5,000 is 1,000. 21% of 5,000 is 1,050. It says find each percentage and be prepared to explain your reasoning. All right, so they say use the double line diagram if you need any additional help. So what I can do is I can figure out, well, how many tick marks is it to get to 21? Now, this would incorporate some decimals. So 21, well, not 21, I'm sorry about that. It will be 20 and 1/10, 20 and 2/10, 20 and 3/10, 20 and 4/10, 20 and 5/10, 20 and 6/10, 20 and 7/10, 20 and 8/10, 20 and 9/10, and there is no such thing as 20 and 10/10 because 10/10 is 1 whole. Okay, so it's saying that 20% is 1,000. 21%, or 20% is 1,000. Okay, let me use a highlighter. I think that'd be best for this problem. So 20% of this is 1,000. 21% is 1,500. Correct? So what I can do is I could actually use subtraction to figure out what's 1%. Okay? And I want to, let me explain. Okay? So if I need to find the 1%, correct? It gave me was 20%. It gave me was 21%. If I can subtract those percentages, I could actually find what's 1%. And here's what I mean by that. Okay. So, and I'm going to highlight right here on the double number line. Okay. So I can actually subtract those two to figure out the difference and figure out what is 1%. So here we go. I'm going to start off subtracting. And I'm going to double check my answers with you guys to prove my theory or to check my theory. So I have 21%, which is 1,050 minus 1,000, which would give me 50. So 1% is actually 50. If I wanted to check my answers, I could put 1 over 100. And this is 5,000. What's missing is the part. So if I do that, I'm going to get 5,000 divided by 100. The zeros could cancel out. And aha, it is 50. So the theory is correct. Okay. So we found that. All right. So for the next one, it said find 1/10% of 5,000. Now, if we piggyback to the first problem, right, where I said that, hey, I noticed that the decimal place is just moving. So let's look at this area right here, these two problems. Okay, so where it was 3%, then it went to 0.3, which this is 1% and it goes to 0.1. So what happened, what's the difference between those two, is that the decimal place just moved. So I could assume that that would be 5. Why? Because when the decimal moved back or moved up, which I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that. If I put a decimal by 1 and I moved in part B, the decimal actually moved up 1. Well, I could do that the same thing with my answer. Okay. So let's test it out. And let me erase my annotations right here. If you guys need it, always feel free to rewind the video. So let's check it. Okay, so it's 0.1 times 5,000 over 100. Okay. Now this is a pretty big number, but I have my calculator. So, and if you could always check it at home. So it's gonna be 500 divided by 100. You scratch out the zeros, and it is in fact 5. Okay. So when I look at the next one with part C, we're going to do what we did with the bell ringer. Okay. So we know that 20% is 1,000, correct? And we now know that 0.1% is 5. So if I need to figure out, well, what is 20 and 1/10, it could be, and I'm going to write this down. 20 and 1/10 is going to be 1,005. Because all I did was add that 20% plus that 10%. Okay. So then, okay, we're going to look at the next one. All right. The next one is 20 and 4/10. Correct? So if 1% is 5, and I'm going to set up some ratio tables, what would be, let me write that again, because that looks like a discombobulated percent. So we know that 1% is equal to 5. Right? 1% is equal to 5%. Okay? So then 0.1%, or not 0.1, 0.4. I'm sorry about that, guys. My phone's going off. I'm getting all confused. All right, here we go. So 1.1%. There we go. 0.1% is equal to 5. All right, so we need to figure out what 0.4 equal to. So if we multiply they both on each side, we could say that this would equal to 20. And let's see. So 1,020. Okay. So 1,020. All right. Now, if you want to, you could check your answers using the proportion tables. So I'm about to erase that. Okay, so 1,020. So it's going to be 1,020 is 0.4. Okay, so like I said, I could check my answer. So this is 20.1 over 100, because that's a percent. It's equal to 5,000. All right, and I'm going to multiply going across, and I'm going to divide by 100. Okay, so when I multiply going across, 5,000 times 20.1. Well, we know 5,000 times 20 should give me like 10,000 or 100,000. So it's going to be 100,000 divided by 500. And then if I divide it by 5, guess what? It equals 1,005. So that answer is correct. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the next one, just to prove our theory, guys, like using mental math. All right, so the next one is 20.4 over 100 equals 5,000. So I multiply going straight across, and I'm dividing it by 100. So 5,000 times 20.4. Okay. Which would equal, and let me erase this, 1,000 or 102,000 divided by 100. If I scratch out the zeros, what's left over is 1,020. So therefore, our answer is correct. All right. So if you have any questions on number 2, make sure you go to your manager's Google Meet session, or visit your manager Google Meet session. All right. So now let's look at question 3. Question 3 is saying 15% of 80 is 12, and 16% of 80 is 12.8. Find each percentage of 80 and be prepared to explain your reasoning. All right, guys. So we can actually use this to find out what's 1% of 80. All right. So let me underline this. This is important. This is important. Okay. So we're going to do what we did with the last one. All right. So we know that 16% is equal to 12.8. So 16% of 80 is equal to 12.8. 15% of 80 is equal to 12. What I can do with those two numbers is I can subtract them. 12.8 minus 12 will give me 0.8. That's the difference between the two. Okay, it'll be 0.8. Okay, because the 12s will cancel out. All right, now this is 1%. 1% is equal to 0.8. But look at it. It's asking for 0.1%. And just piggybacking to question 1, when that decimal moved in the percentage, the decimal in the portion moved as well. So if the decimal moves in the percentage, the decimal is going to move in the portion as well. All right. So it's going to be 0.1% or 1/10% is equal to 800 for the portion of 800s. So we know that if we use the associated property, I'll break those two up. 15 plus 0.1 will equal 15.1. Okay, so we should know that 15 is 12 plus, and that 0.1 is 0.08, which means that 15.1 will be 12.08. Okay, or 12 and 800ths. I apologize for that. Okay, so now for the next one, which I'll use green, I have 15 plus 0.7, which equals 15.7. Well, we know that 15% is 12 plus. Now, to figure this out, we could use the ratios from Unit 2, our Unit 1, or during our, with our 6th grade lessons. And we could say, oh, this is 0.8. Okay, so now it's 0.7. So I need to figure out what's this number right here. Well, I could multiply 0.1 by 7 and multiply that times 7, and it's going to be 0.7. And with this one, if you guys know what's 8 times 7, it'd be 56. But I wanna, it'd be I would say it'd be 0.56, but I want to check my answer. So 6 carry the 5, okay, 5, and then it got 2 digits behind decimal, so therefore it will be 0.56. So 0.7% will be 0.56, and it will equal 12 and 56 hundredths. Okay, so I'm gonna circle my answers. Hopefully, like this portion of the lesson kind of made sense. If it didn't make sense, guys, make sure you visit your manager's Google Meet session.